He stayed silent while his ex forgot their daughter's birthday, and it revealed everything about who she really is. Imagine watching your child get excited about their birthday, counting down the days, maybe even hoping that this time things will be different. And you, as the parent who has been there every single day, already know. You already know what is coming. But you say nothing. That is the position this dad found himself in, and honestly, the weight of that silence is something most people will never fully understand unless they have lived it. The knowing and the staying quiet at the same time. So here is the full story. This man has full custody of his kids. The ex-wife has been essentially absent for more than 5 years. 5 years. That is not a rough patch. That is not a hard season of life. That is a choice, made over and over again, day after day, for half a decade. The youngest child eventually reached a point where she wanted to try reconnecting, and this dad, to his enormous credit, supported that. He made the contact happen. He did not stand in the way. He let his daughter pursue that relationship even though he had every reason to be bitter about it. He swallowed whatever feelings he had privately and put his daughter's hope ahead of his own history. That is not a small thing. That takes a particular kind of discipline that most people do not have when they have been genuinely wronged. And things seemed to be going okay for a while. The ex was showing up, making an effort, playing the role of the returning parent. Phone calls were happening. Maybe some visits. The kind of surface-level presence that can feel like progress when you are a child who just wants her mother to exist in her life in some consistent way. But here is where it gets interesting. The youngest has a birthday coming up that weekend. And this dad has a strong feeling, based on years of knowing exactly who this woman is, that she has already forgotten about it. Not a gut feeling built on nothing. A feeling built on a long and detailed track record of this woman's priorities. He knows her patterns. He has seen what she remembers and what she lets slip. And birthdays, it turns out, are not at the top of her list. Now here is the question he is sitting with. Does he remind her? Does he send a quick text, "Hey, just so you know, the birthday is this Sunday"? Does he protect his daughter from the disappointment that is almost certainly coming? Or does he let this moment happen exactly as it is going to happen? He is not asking this question lazily. He is sitting with it, turning it over, aware that either choice has consequences for the little girl he has been protecting all along. He chose not to remind her. And Reddit absolutely erupted. Let me tell you why I think that choice deserves a lot more grace than most people gave it. This man spent years in survival mode. He talked about rebuilding from homelessness, about fighting to restore his reputation, about building a stable life for his kids entirely on his own. Think about what that actually looks like on a Tuesday morning when you have 2 kids to feed and get out the door and the rent is due and there is no one sitting across the table to split any of it with you. No one to say, "Hey, I will handle pickup today." No one to tag in when you are exhausted. He did not have a co-parent. He had someone who left and disappeared. He raised these children through all of it, the school runs, the sick nights, the emotional conversations, the financial stress, all of it, by himself. And now this woman is back on the scene, trying to look like a good mother, and he is supposed to also manage her performance for her? His oldest child already sees the truth. She wants nothing to do with the ex, and that was her own decision based on her own lived experience. Nobody planted that seed in her. No one sat her down and walked her through a list of grievances or coached her toward a conclusion. She just grew up and figured it out, the way kids do when they pay attention to patterns over a long enough period of time. Absence becomes undeniable when you get old enough to name it. When you are small you find ways to explain it, maybe mom is busy, maybe things are complicated, maybe next time. But eventually you stop explaining and you just see it for what it is. The oldest reached that point on her own timeline. And now his youngest is on that same journey, a little earlier in the process, still hopeful, still maybe seeing the version of her mother that she wants to exist rather than the one that actually does. And that is okay. That is where she is. Her father is not going to rush her through it. That is painful to think about. It genuinely is. Because that little girl is going to feel something when her birthday comes and goes and her mother does not call. She might sit near her phone. She might keep checking it while everyone else is singing and eating cake and trying to make the day feel special. She might tell herself there is still time, maybe the call is coming later, maybe something came up. And that feeling is going to be real and it is going to hurt. But here is the thing that I think some of the people criticizing this dad are missing entirely. That hurt is not something he created. He did not build that situation. He did not cause that outcome. The only person responsible for knowing when her child's birthday is the mother. Full stop. What some people called sabotage, I would call refusing to enable. There is a meaningful difference. Sabotage would be actively lying to the ex, telling her the wrong date, hiding the phone, doing something that deliberately causes the failure. Not sending an unprompted reminder is not sabotage. That is just letting someone live with the consequences of their own inattention. Every other person in this child's life knows when her birthday is. The school knows. The grandparents know. The friends know. The only person who needs a reminder is the one who should need it the least. Think about what it would mean if he did remind her. She calls on the right day. The daughter feels good. The ex gets credit for being there. And the dad has once again done the invisible labor of making this woman look better than she actually is. That has been the dynamic for years, probably, where he carries the weight and she coasts on it. Where he does the planning and the remembering and the showing up, and she drifts back periodically and gets treated like a gift. He said it himself. He is not going to go out of his way to make her look good. And that is not cruelty. That is a man who has finally stopped covering for someone who never covered for him. It is the quiet, firm decision of someone who has run out of reasons to keep subsidizing someone else's image. The update made everything so much clearer. She actually did reach out. She texted asking if she could call on Sunday. And he said yes. He told her she could call at 7 in the morning. He set a time. He gave her a window. He organized the logistics so that the opportunity was there, laid out and ready, and all she had to do was follow through on it. He did not block the relationship. He did not tell her the wrong day. He did not create obstacles or manufacture reasons for the call not to happen. He let the thing happen. He just did not do her homework for her beforehand. There is something important in that distinction. He engaged. He responded. He participated in making this possible. And when she asked, he answered clearly and without hostility. That is not the behavior of someone trying to destroy a relationship. That is the behavior of someone trying to stay out of the way while also not enabling ongoing carelessness. Now I want to talk about the emotional complexity here for a second, because I think this dad is carrying something that does not get acknowledged enough. When you have been the only parent for years, every decision you make feels enormous. The stakes feel higher because there is no one to catch the mistake if you make one, no one to course correct if you get it wrong. You are always wondering whether you are helping your kids heal or accidentally doing damage. You are trying to balance honesty with protection, letting them figure things out on their own versus shielding them from pain that you can already see coming. You second-guess yourself at night when the kids are asleep and the house is quiet and all you have is your own thoughts and no one to run them by. There is no manual for this. There is no perfect answer. And the fact that he even asked the question, that he went to Reddit wondering if he was wrong, tells you everything about his character. He is not a vindictive person. He is not rubbing his hands together hoping his ex fails. He genuinely does not know if what he is doing is right, and that uncertainty, that willingness to sit in it and ask strangers on the internet to weigh in honestly, is one of the most honest things a parent can do. He is a tired, thoughtful parent trying to figure out where the line is between protecting his kid and letting reality do its job. His youngest wanted to reconnect and he supported that. He could have said no. He could have made it difficult. He could have let his own exhaustion and his own wounds do the talking and put up walls that would have been completely understandable given everything he went through. A lot of parents in his position would have. A lot of people who had been abandoned, who had rebuilt from nothing, who had carried every single responsibility alone for years, would have decided that protecting their child meant keeping that door firmly shut. And no one could have blamed them for it. But he did not do that. He could have planted doubt every step of the way, slipping in small comments, letting his own bitterness color the story his daughter was building in her head. Instead, he made the contact happen and stepped back, deliberately removing himself from the center of that equation so his daughter could form her own conclusions in her own time. That is genuinely good parenting even when it is hard. Maybe especially when it is hard. Here is what I keep coming back to. His oldest already knows who her mother is and made a choice based on that knowledge. His youngest is still in the process of learning. And the kindest thing this dad can do in the long run, even if it does not feel kind in the short term, is let his daughter learn that truth through real experiences rather than protect her from it indefinitely. Real experiences leave real impressions. They build something solid in a child, a grounded understanding of who people are and what they actually offer, rather than a soft and fragile belief built on maintained fiction. Because if he keeps running interference, keeps making the ex look better than she is, his daughter might spend years waiting for a relationship that is never actually going to exist. She might shape her self-worth around the question of why her mother does not show up, when the honest answer has nothing to do with her at all and everything to do with who her mother has chosen to be. She might structure her expectations around a version of her mother that only exists because her father kept quietly propping it up. And when that illusion finally collapses, as it eventually would, it will hurt her so much more in the end. Better a smaller hurt now, one her father is present for, than a larger unraveling later when she is older and the disillusionment cuts deeper. So where do I land on this? He is not the bad guy here. Not even close. He is a father who has been doing everything right for years, quietly and without applause, who finally decided to stop doing the things that are not his job. Reminding someone that their child's birthday exists is not his responsibility. It never was. It was never written into any agreement, spoken or unspoken, that he would be the one keeping track of her obligations to her own children. And the fact that he said he would never intentionally sabotage her shows that he has a line. He knows where it is. He thought about it. He is not operating on impulse or anger. He is not going to cross it. But he is also not going to sprint back and forth across the room smoothing everything out so nobody ever sees the cracks. There is a version of parenting that does that spends enormous energy maintaining an illusion of functionality for the sake of the children, and sometimes that is the right call. But at some point the illusion itself becomes a disservice. At some point the kids deserve to see what is real. The ex has a choice. She can show up for this child, genuinely and consistently, and build something real over time through the slow accumulation of kept promises and remembered details and actual presence. She can learn her daughter's birthday not because someone texted her a reminder but because it lives in her, the way dates that matter to you tend to live in you without effort. Or she can keep drifting in and out, treating the relationship like something she can pick up and set down whenever it suits her, and let the connection erode on its own through the quiet weight of repeated disappointment. But whatever happens, that outcome belongs to her. Not to him. He already did his part. He did his part for 5 years while she was gone and he is still doing it now. He has already given more than anyone asked of him. My final word on this is simple. A parent who needs a reminder to remember their child's birthday does not deserve to borrow someone else's effort to look like they remembered. The dad was right. He held the line with dignity and he let the truth speak for itself. She pushes her husband away in her sleep and he goes silent for days, but the real problem is not what you think. 10:44 p.m. Claude Respondio, she is lying there, barely conscious, running on no sleep after working overnight shifts, and somehow she is the one who has to apologize for her own body reek. She is lying there, barely conscious, running on no sleep after working overnight shifts, and somehow she is the one who has to apologize for her own body reacting while she was asleep. Let that sink in for a second, because the more you sit with it, the more wrong it starts to feel. Here is what is actually happening in this marriage. She works overnights. On her days off, she tries to force her sleep schedule back around so she can be present for her kids in the morning. That first reset day is brutal. Any shift worker will tell you that. You are running on empty and your body is fighting you the whole way. Your eyes feel like they are full of sand. Your thoughts come slow and heavy, half-formed, dissolving before they finish. You exist somewhere between waking and dreaming, and even the most basic decisions feel impossible. And in that state, barely awake, not even fully conscious, she pulled away from unexpected physical contact. She did not choose to. She did not think about it. Her body simply reacted, the way bodies do when they are startled out of something that fragile and hard won. And now her husband is sulking. He is not speaking to her. He muttered something under his breath and went cold, retreating into a silence that she is apparently supposed to interpret as his grief, and then feel responsible for fixing. That is the situation. And I need you to really think about what that means. She has been completely transparent with him about who she is. She told him clearly that physical touch is something she struggles with. She explained her history, the home she grew up in that offered no warmth, the way that early experience has shaped how she processes being touched as an adult. Think about what it takes to say those things out loud to another person. To name the childhood you had, the absence of softness, the way you learned to navigate a world where affection was not something freely given, and to trust someone enough to hand them that information. She did that. She was vulnerable in one of the most exposed ways a person can be vulnerable. She has worked on it actively. She tries to show him affection even when it is hard for her, even when every instinct in her body resists it. She has sat through multiple conversations with him about how to make their physical connection work for both of them. And one of the things she specifically asked for, explicitly, in those conversations, was for him not to initiate cuddling while she is sleeping. She told him. He knew. And he did it anyway. Not once. Not as a mistake he made early on before he fully understood. This has happened multiple times throughout their relationship. She has woken up confused and disoriented and pushed him away, sometimes not even knowing it happened until he told her the next day, which is its own strange kind of helplessness, being informed that your body did something you have no memory of and then being expected to account for it. And every time, he gets in a mood. Every time, she is left managing his feelings about a reaction she had while she was not even conscious. She wakes from sleep already in debt, already behind, already managing someone else's emotional state before she has even fully returned to her own body. That pattern is not a misunderstanding. That is a cycle, and it is worth looking at very carefully. Here is what I cannot stop thinking about. He knows physical touch overwhelms her. He knows she has communicated her boundaries around sleep. And yet he keeps reaching for her when she is at her most vulnerable and least aware, when she has no ability to prepare herself, no ability to meet him halfway, no ability to do anything except react from instinct. And when her body does what bodies do when they are startled or overwhelmed, which is pull away, he punishes her with silence. That is not a man who is simply sad his affection was rejected. That is a man who is using emotional withdrawal as leverage, whether he is conscious of it or not. And that is a meaningful distinction. Oh, and by the way, they have not had a date night in over a year. Her love language is quality time. He knows that. He has known it the whole time. But somehow his unmet needs are a crisis and her unmet needs are just a fact of life that keeps getting deprioritized. She mentioned that she gets touched out by the end of the day because she is physically affectionate with her kids, something she has been intentional about because she did not want her children to grow up the way she did. Pause on that for a moment. She is giving her children something she never received. She is reaching past her own wiring, past her own discomfort, past everything her body learned in childhood, and choosing to show up differently for her kids. She is actively breaking a cycle. She is parenting with intention even when it costs her something real. And then after all of that, after the overnight shift and the sleep debt and the emotional output of raising children and trying to be present for them in the morning hours when her body is begging her to rest, she has to also perform physical warmth on demand or face a cold shoulder from her husband. There is no space in this picture where she is allowed to simply be depleted. There is no room where she is allowed to have a limit. That is exhausting in a way that is very hard to put into words. And here is the thing about the sleep situation specifically. You cannot control what your body does when you are asleep. That is not a moral failing. That is not a statement about how much you love someone. If someone is startled awake by unexpected contact, they react. That is primal. That is wired into the nervous system at a level that has nothing to do with love or intention or willingness. It is the same mechanism that makes your leg kick when a doctor taps your knee. She cannot apologize her way out of it. She cannot train herself not to do it. Expecting her to somehow be more accommodating while unconscious is genuinely unreasonable, and the fact that he keeps expecting it anyway says something important about how he sees her needs relative to his own. What concerns me most is the pattern. She communicates clearly and he does not change. She explains her needs and they do not get met. She reacts in her sleep and he responds with punishment. And somehow she is the one on Reddit asking if she is the problem. She has internalized so much of the blame in this dynamic that she is questioning whether her sleeping body's automatic reaction to unwanted touch is something she should feel guilty about. She is not asking whether he was wrong to ignore her boundary. She is asking whether she is broken for having one. That is not a healthy place to be, and it did not happen by accident. So where does this land? She is not the bad guy here. She is not even close to being the bad guy here. She was asleep. Her body reacted to being touched in a way she had already asked him to stop doing. And he responded by shutting down and giving her the silent treatment. The only person in this story who has done anything wrong is the man who keeps ignoring a clearly communicated boundary and then makes his wife feel responsible for the fallout. The love language conversation needs to happen again, but this time it needs to be honest in a different way. He needs to hear that love languages are not a one-way street. He cannot keep demanding that she stretch and accommodate and push past her discomfort while he puts in almost no visible effort toward what she needs. That is not a partnership. That is one person carrying the full weight of emotional labor while the other one keeps score. My final take is this. She owes him no apology for what happened while she was asleep. What she does deserve is a husband who actually honors what she has told him, who invests in her love language with the same energy he expects her to invest in his, and who does not respond to her involuntary reactions by making her feel like a failure. She has been doing the work. It is long past time for him to start doing his. Drop a comment below telling me which story hit harder for you, and if you are not already subscribed, now would be a great time to fix that.